back. Stay Elevated Outdoors podcast. I'm Johnny Touchton.
I'm Kelly Brookins.
How are we doing this morning, my friend?
Good, buddy.
That's good.
It's early. You know, I've got
It is very early.
one of these in and probably need a couple more.
My second. It's slowly working. I'm not going to lie. I'm about to pop one of these Zinnichinos in. It's going to help out. We're getting
You're
there.
You're gonna have to jump off the podcast for a little 20-minute intermission with the coffee just kicking in.
No, I already nicotine and coffee shits has been taken care of this morning. We're good to go.
All right. Well, you're good.
But what have you been up to lately?
Trying to beat the rain a little bit. Of course, we say that. Everybody says we needed the rain, and then when you get it and you get 2 inches of it, 3 inches of it all in a few hour span, and it doesn't stop,
All your seed washes away.
then you're ready for it to, go on again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Trying to get in the woods, trying to see what we can put on the ground, fill the freezer.
Dude, we did pretty good recently on the water, actually. Got out there on some of these negative lows, looking for, your inshore slam, trout, redfish, flounder.
I miss
Did
going
not
out
expect to see snook. The water was freezing when you dipped your hand in it, and found some snook. So did some.
That's the only thing I miss about Florida is getting out there on the water. Tampa, I guess, isn't what it used to be. Everybody that I see that used to fish Tampa, when I see on their Facebook pages, I see a lot of marsh grass. Yeah, I see a lot of marsh grass in the background now. I'm like, man, that guy never used to fish marsh grass. He's got to be. And then I think about where they're going to be.
I remember that guy. He used to talk shit about the Nature Coast, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Now they're all there. Which, I mean, no shame. They got to go where the fish are. And
100%.
If Pinellas County or Hillsborough, whoever it is, keeps dumping sewage into Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's only going to...
It's a problem, man. I mean...
or spills. They keep having accidental spills.
Yeah.
From probably the push of a button.
Probably. From the storms filling up all of these wastewater retention ponds and then them not being strong enough. I don't fucking know. I know that it is incredibly detrimental to the health of the fisheries. So I don't eat fish from Tampa Bay anymore. That's just me personally.
They're not growing like a third eye or anything like that yet, but when I'm not reaching into a bucket of crap and pulling out a fish and eating it, and that's, from what I understand, at times that's what the bay's like.
Yeah,
but they also do clean it up too. I mean, it's great fishing down there sometimes.
In the summertime,
it takes a while for that to clear out.
It can be deadly in the summertime. They have that Vibrio bacteria, like enterobacteria, that if you have a cut on your foot and it gets in there, I mean, it necrotizes everything, and it can get in your blood and cause all kinds of problems, including death. It's bad, man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like the big focus right now is on the Everglades restoration and all that. They want to stop discharging the water from Lake O, and they want to start sending the water back through the Everglades so that the natural filtration of those grasses can occur and start having a healthier Florida Bay. Correct. Exactly. And so, you get a lot of focus on that. You get a lot of focus on, I believe, the St. Lucie River. I'm not an East Coaster. Don't quote me on that. Because the seagrasses. Yeah, that whole area out that way, their seagrasses are being harmed as well. It's funny because, like, as hunters, we get out there and you can see how a native grass, like native big blue stem, for example, how that can be very beneficial for an ecosystem. You can see how long the root system is. It's as tall as I am, like 6 feet. You can see how that can be super beneficial, how it's sucking up all those nutrients, then the deer eat it, and then they get all those nutrients, and it's healthy for that ecosystem. Just one grass, right? I think, try not to get on a pedestal here, I think because people don't see the seagrass, or maybe when they walk through the seagrass, they're like, oh, seaweed. Because I just heard that the other day. They don't realize like how integral it is into that ecosystem. They don't realize how important oysters are for the ecosystem.
Yep. I was just going to say oysters.
They did I don't know if it was a study or a video. It probably was, I think it was CCA actually, Coastal Conservation Association. Because they're big on oyster regeneration. They did a little video. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. And we'll probably put that link up. they did like, nasty bay water, just bay water, whatever. It looks
Mm-hmm.
nasty. And then bay water with oysters in it. And in like an hour, the bay water with oysters in it was crystal clear.
Clear.
You could see through it. Yeah, they filter that. The blue crab that I just had the other day, you know, he's eating all the detritus, all the dead fish, all the dead things down there. And,
Yep.
you know, if you don't have a healthy blue crab population, then they're like the vultures of the sea. They like to eat that stuff. So, I mean, we see vultures every day. We know what they do. We don't see blue crab every day. So, I think there's a disconnect. People get on the water on their power boats and all that stuff, and they enjoy the water. They don't understand the health of the ecosystem and how important it is and how it works. Whereas, you could equate it to even, all the golf courses that they wanted to put into the state. Well, those golf courses dump a crap load of nitrates, whatever.
I think you're right. It's nitrogen, right?
Nitrogen. They dump a lot
Yeah.
of nitrogen on those golf courses to keep them green. Nitrogen is
Mm-hmm.
fertilizer.
And it feeds all the bad algae. What is that blue-green algae that was
Blue
such
green
a problem
algae.
for a long
Yep,
time? Is it a
absolutely.
problem down there anymore? I
It
know it
it
was before I moved.
it was bad. Yeah, it was bad. Like back when you moved, Bull Bay was a dead zone. You remember going
Really?
down there? Yeah, you remember going down there, and I mean, we have tons of stories about people running over us in boats down there, and I mean, there were fish everywhere, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
dead zone for the longest time. And I think the fish are coming back. I think it's getting a little bit better. I don't think it's recovered completely. I follow a bunch of those groups down there, and they
They just had a tournament down there. I think it's not called the West Coast Pro anymore, but they opened up a new one, that Abyss batteries that Kent Hickman's doing.
can't. He's a good dude. I will say
Yeah.
this: I can't afford his tournaments anymore.
Are they high?
They're more expensive than when we were fishing them.
It's been so
So,
long since I did. Man, I love doing that. As,
dude, me
as
too.
many tournaments as we lost, we did good in some,
We did really good in some. Yeah.
but it was just the camaraderie with everybody was just really fun. But
Yeah, I
so they
agree.
just did a tournament in Punta Gorda, and I didn't see the weights, that were down there, but I did see a lot of pictures, on their Facebook page for this new tournament series. I think it's not like their national redfish series that he's running, but it's more like a smaller club tournament like
Yeah.
IFA was when it started,
Yeah.
or
Is the
like his
IFA
West
still
Coast Pro.
going? Do they still do
No,
the IFA? Oh, that's a
no,
shame.
it's been gone for a while. I feel like maybe they were trying to start something again this last couple of years, but maybe it never came to fruition. But now it's like the Power Pole National Redfish Series. Kent does a couple more that
You
are
know who's
like one
doing
man.
a lot
Like
of?
those one mans that I used to fish, where
Yes,
you
yes.
had he's still doing those, but I don't remember who sponsors them. I guess we could ask somebody. Jason Dozier would probably know more about that.
Yeah, he might. You know who's doing a
You know,
lot of tournaments nowadays? I should talk to him. We should get him on. He would be a good guest. He's made out of baling wire. But Brian
Brian.
Stahl, yes, it's a
I can't
sad
believe I
story.
said that to that guy. I feel
It
terrible.
was so funny.
I
It's a
really
sad
like him.
story. It's really sad, actually. The gentleman who was running the Lord, I'm going to mess up the name now.
Extreme redfish and
Yes,
extreme bass.
that's it. The Extreme Bass Tournament. He passed away from COVID.
Yep.
Really sad, right?
Yep.
Brian was able to either purchase it or get in somehow. I'm
Well,
not
he was
really sure
working with
the
him for a
particulars.
long time. He was his mentor, basically,
Right,
for the whole thing.
right. That's right. And again, I don't want to like misconstrue like how he did it or how he got into it or anything.
Yeah.
And I'd love to
He's
get him on
running
to
it
talk
now.
to it. Yeah, yeah. If he listens, and dude, give me a call, please, because
Yeah, that would be great.
we could chat for a long time.
Be
But
the first time I
he's running
talked to
them.
him in 7 or 8 years too, other than Facebook.
Right. Happy birthday. But yeah, he's turned that into a pretty big thing. He's doing a great job with it. Anyway, I say all that because I got out the other day. I'm not going to say where. Just pick a creek north of, I don't know, north of Crystal River. Excuse me. And we got out on a negative low in a little skiff, and we did really well. I was pretty impressed. It was an area that was semi new to me. I've done it a few times, but not really like focused heavily on it. And the gentleman that I went with, he's fished it a few times, but I should preface this. I don't like fishing with people because And I don't know if you ever got this. If they knew you were a guide, it's almost like they wanted to go with you to get your
for your
spots and to get your information. And every single time I would fish with somebody, that's exactly how it would be. So I stopped fishing with people for the longest time. I would fish with you. I would fish with Dozier. I would fish with, a
That's because most
handful.
of our spots that we found, we would all find together, and it was never a look at the map so much. We'd look at the map, go to that place, it would suck, and we'd look and say, "Let's go over there and check it out," and then boom, the fish are there.
I don't want to say it was never a competition. That's not the right word. It was always like we were in it together. It's
Yeah,
like
it
we
was
understood.
definitely a competition, but
Right.
we were in it together.
But we were in it together, and it was also like, hey, listen, like, you know, two of us are guides here. We're going to fish this with our clients. It's
Mm-hmm.
understood. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And people who aren't guides don't really understand the value of having spots that are not touched by other people, which is, I mean, let's be real here. Every spot's been touched. But
That's right.
when you find the fish and they're hot, that's going to be a spot for a little bit. So you don't want all that pressure on them. You want to be able to, hook some fish for your clients. The guy I went with is just a good dude. I mean, he's non-confrontational, doesn't care about all that. He just wants to go catch fish and honestly feed his family on it. And so that's what we did. We went out and he had a bunch of shrimp that he had bought from the store. I ended up getting some fiddler crabs for some sheep's head and stuff. It quite funny. We didn't catch a single thing on the shrimp. It was all on gulp. We
Really?
used every single fish was on a gulp. And I'm saying that hesitantly because so many people use gulp and they don't know how to use it, but
Mm-hmm.
it was incredible. I mean, we had the conversation on the boat. I told him exactly what I just said, and I was like, "Hey, man, we should probably fish this spot." And he's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah. Let's give it a shot." Boom, fish. Boom, fish. Boom, fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sitting here saying I'm like this fucking guru or anything. It's just, hey, this looks like a good spot. We should probably
Yeah,
fish it just
it's like
from.
looking at hunting terrain. You look at it
Yeah,
and
it's
have a
just,
good idea that something's
dude.
going
It's
to be
just
there.
the fucking gestalt in your brain. You know it's going to be there, right? Like, I mean, that looks too fishy for there not to be fish. And we got, man, it was, when I say negative low, I mean we had to. There was a point I didn't bring waders. There was a point where I almost undressed to get out to drag that boat through the channel
Were you
because it was so
hopping?
low.
Were you hopping potholes or creek holes to get to spots, or was it high when you got out there?
No, no, it was on. It was emptying out. It was draining out all morning, and
Okay.
so where we were at, I didn't look at the tides because it wasn't my boat. I was like, you know what? If he thinks that we can make it, we can make it. I don't care. And as we're running there, I'm looking at these wading birds and their feet are dry. And I'm like,
Mm,
this is low.
might not
This is
drive over
really
that
low.
far.
Yeah. And if you know that area and that kind of nature coasty area, it's pretty rocky.
Mm-hmm.
There were some moments where I was like, ooh, that sounded like it hurt.
Yeah,
So
I lost a lower unit up there.
yeah, I don't know anybody who hasn't lost a lower unit up there. So it was a good day though, man. I mean, we got into a deeper, and by deeper I mean like maybe a foot and a half of water, and the trout were sitting down in it, and we did really well on big trout. I don't know if I took any pictures. I should have. I don't know. I've been bad about taking pictures lately. Got some redfish. Redfish were all in the mullet, which was kind of a new thing for him. He was, I'm sitting there looking at these mullet schools. I'm like, hey, dude, we need to be fishing those. And as you know, redfish any time of the year, if you see a
Yep.
mullet school, you should be fishing it because
Yep.
if you're targeting redfish, those mullet, when they turn up on their sides and they dig up the mud, they dig up all the detritus.
I
Those
remember
redfish come in
Tim
there and hammer it.
telling us if you see a mullet jump, cast at it. If I see one jump, I'm casting right at it. And he would too. He'd catch one every time he'd say it, he'd do it and catch one.
Yep. Yep. It's just one of those things. It's a symbiotic relationship that they have, and I don't know. I'd say symbiotic. I don't know what the benefit is of it for the mullet, so it's more like I guess, a parasitic relationship almost. But whatever,
More
it doesn't
like it.
matter. Yeah, that's biology that I've forgotten. So don't even quote me on that. But anyway, so they get in there and they mutualistic relationship. There you go.
They're not chasing
Anyway,
sharks off to keep the mullet from getting eaten or anything like that. They're just
right.
they're using them as camouflage.
That's right. They
and
just
to kick up crap for them to eat.
That's right. They get in there and they hammer it. But we did well on those, and surprisingly, I dipped my hands in the water. I mean, the water was in the 60s for sure. It was cold, so I snook was the last thing on my mind, and we caught a couple pretty good snook actually. One of them would have been slot or it was damn close to slot. I can't remember, but obviously I think the season closes in
Were they sluggish at
December.
all as you were bringing them in, or
Dude,
the
I
snook? I
so
mean,
yeah, so we got way back in this creek, kind of near some houses, and how did it go? Hooked a redfish, got him in. Immediately, a fish comes up, and you can tell he's feeding. Just bow, just blast bait. I mean, there's bait everywhere, and I was like, that fish is feeding. You need to cast over there. Cast over there. Boom, hooks it. Snook had a lot of fight in him. A lot of fight. I was impressed.
even being cold like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what.
Were
I
those little
think
creeks
they're.
spring fed at all? Because
I
I
was
remember
about to
going
say.
back there and finding all of those areas all over that area. I'd find super green, clear water in the back of the creeks, and there was always this like a small little spring where you'd even see manatees and all that
Yep,
stuff in all these little springs.
yep.
And the snook would be piled up around it because it's what 70 something degrees coming out of those
72, yeah.
springs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that cuz the water wasn't clear, but you could hear the freshwater birds kind of up the creek. You could hear like
Mm-hmm.
the grackles and the red-winged blackbirds and all that stuff, and I was like, this has got to be fed from something. So I think it was warmer up in there, and that's how they were surviving. Whether or not it was or not, I don't know. I didn't see any springs. There had to have been
Right.
some warm water
Or at
somewhere
least a
coming out.
river, at least a good
Yeah,
flowing river coming from inland. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, something. Because it was impressive. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't expect to slam today, but I'll take it.
What kind of bait was in the back of the creeks? You said there was a lot of bait back there.
Dude, finger mullet out the ass, and a ton of pinfish and a ton of little
They're
minnows.
like killifish, the little mud
Yeah,
minnows or
yeah,
killifish, whatever they're
the little
called.
killifish, or they're freaking everywhere anyway. But
People call those creek chubs too,
yep, creek
I think.
chubs.
Yeah.
Yep, and then a bunch of little glass minnows. So they were hammering
Okay.
all that. But I mean, there was shrimp popping too. You could see the shrimp jumping, on the surface. So it was good, man. I mean, I was impressed. It was a nice spot. I'm definitely going back in the skiff just to check it out on slightly higher of a tide.
The the spots you were having, were they all in the creeks? So you just find a depression within a creek? Like, was it on a, if they were in a creek, was it on a bend where the water washed out there, or were you kind of on the outside of it where there was
Yeah,
just a depression in the mouth?
yeah. I found that because the creek, the way it ran, the creek would run up and then get into. It couldn't have been a river. It had to have been like you were saying, like a spring fed creek or like an outflow or something like that. And then there were flats on the sides of it, and every single flat that had like an oxbow kind of bend to it, the water was rushing past that oxbow. The redfish and then the oysters would build up on the other side of that oxbow, obviously. And then so the mullet and the oysters were hanging close to those oysters. The mullet
Okay,
and the
and the
redfish, right?
and the
Okay, making
snook
sure I
and
got 'em.
redfish would be on the down current side of that stuff,
Right.
I
That's
guess.
right.
Yep.
And then the trout were in the excuse me, the trout were in the flats.
Trying to keep warm in all the mud.
Yep, that's right. They were just sitting down there basking, waiting for stuff to kind of pile over top of them and just eat it as it came.
Did they
So we
have
would,
kind of like, I know in Louisiana and sometimes fishing in Homosassa, we'd catch fish in that dark mud and we'd get them in and they'd have like black mud or black stain on their bellies. Were
I
they like
didn't
that
notice
there?
that. Yeah, I didn't notice that. I've seen that too when they were literally just hanging to it. I didn't notice it at all. I think it's because they were actively feeding because the water was moving so good.
Just
Because the
washing off of
wind,
them.
it was a north wind, and the way the creek dumped out, it was out. It was basically the wind was helping the tide push that water
Okay.
out, so the water was flowing, and I think that they can't stand it. I mean, when the water's moving like that, if something goes past them, they're going to start feeding.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, it was a good day. I mean, I got redfish fillets in the freezer, so I'm excited to thaw those out and eat them. Had
I
a
miss
trout
it.
sandwich that day.
I was just talking to my girlfriend Jessica a few days ago about Louisiana fishing and how I wish we had a boat and I'd like for us to get one. Her dad just went out to somewhere in the Panhandle of Florida, and they went out. They had they caught some fish, but they went on a guide boat. It just wasn't the best day for fish for whatever reason. And I told her, I said, just get your dad to get us a big aluminum hull boat from somebody, borrow it, or if he wants to buy one, we'll go out there. We'll go take a trip to Louisiana a few times a year and go slay fish. Don't have to buy a live bait or anything. I really miss going out there, but I
You
told her
know
that's
what's
all we need to do.
funny about Louisiana is you see, I don't want to misspeak again. You see a lot of Florida anglers doing really well in the Louisiana tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because it's just gotten so challenging to get fish to eat down here with all the population increase.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, Louisiana's just a mecca for it. It's incredible. I love the fact that you can pitch a creature bait for bass, hook a redfish on a lily pad, and then hook a 8-pound bass the next cast.
I
It's
will say
freaking
I've never
cool.
caught an 8-pound bass in Louisiana. The biggest one I caught was just under 4 pounds. We were pre-fishing for a tournament, and I casted at a redfish, and I don't know what kind of reeds it was that we were fishing, but the redfish actually refused the bait, and the bass swam out from underneath this mat of grass and took the bait right in front of it. Maybe the bass spooked the redfish. I don't know, but they were coming to the bait at the same time. It looked
That's
like it,
awesome.
but
That's so cool. Well, it's like a Bass Pro Shops aquarium. It's you know what it reminds me of. Honestly, it reminds me of when we were fishing the St. John's because you're hooking bass. It's such a tidal fishery, and I'm like, dude, I caught
yeah, would
bass
I
here.
catch a
Like,
3-pound redfish from fishing
yeah,
under
dude,
a dock? How many miles are we up into that river?
quite
We're
a bit.
like, oh my God, I've got a 9-pound bass on, and
Exactly.
it's a 3-pound, 19, 20-inch redfish.
Right. Right. I think we got a couple of them too, and it was
Yeah,
like, it's just one of those things. It's cool
dragging a
when you get in.
Carolina rig worm.
Yep, exactly. When you get into those tidal fisheries like that, you never know what you're gonna get. It's pretty cool.
Sorry, can you hear this cat in the background?
No, I cannot.
She must have her bowl must not be 100% full. Like she probably pawed at it and ate a couple crumbles out of it, and now she wants me to come fill it up for her. She won't shut up.
No, I have no doubt. No, I can't hear. You're good.
All
As
right,
long as you
cool.
can't hear the Brittany in the background.
No,
His nose is to the crease in the door. He's just
no. My dogs are behaving too. They're sitting right next to me and just chilling out.
yeah. Well, that's a benefit of not being in the house is I don't have the cats jumping all over me. Stupid things.
Yeah.
God Almighty. So that's the sum of what I've been doing in the outdoors lately. What's new with you? How's the rut in your area?
It's kind of tapering off. They're still doing their thing. The bucks are still scraping here and there, and I'm still seeing some of the smaller bucks harassing does. I guess it's Warren County. That part of the state's kind of central, right central part of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see some yearlings that are getting harassed by the bucks, and the big bucks are just now starting to nose them around. I guess it's yearlings. It's the really small does, whereas normally it's really big does. And I guess
Big
what
does have already
happens,
been bred out.
yeah, I guess what happens is your fawns from earlier this year, maybe your early drops, May or something like that. Those fawns will get big enough to where they'll actually come into estrus at the latter part of hunting seasons. We're starting to see that, and we'll probably see that some in January too. There's very few of them, but it does make for a really cool rut. I know I talked about it a little bit in the last podcast. My dad several times, and myself, I've never shot one, but I've seen it a lot of times. But you'll see in the last few weeks of hunting season several bucks on one doe, and it's always a little doe, always what is probably a yearling, 60, 70-pound doe. And there's like 8 or 9 bucks on it, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bucks, depending on what part of what part of our club we're at, or what part of the state you're in, I guess. But they'll be covering up this one doe because there's nothing left, and the bucks are still feeling it in their loins. They're trying to
But yeah,
breed
they
everything
don't.
they can.
If they
But it
smell it,
makes
they're
for a
ready
really
to go.
Yeah, it makes for a really cool hunt when that happens because you're getting to see them chase all over the place. They're, bucking up at each other, wanting to fight with their already probably half of them got busted racks from fighting all season. But, so I'm anticipating that starting to happen soon. In Georgia, we have so many deer here that our rut just is all over the place. Even where it's your main rut is kind of consistent with the rest of the country, where you've got your early November, we still have on either side of that so much different rut activity. We'll have our pre-rut is really long. I'm seeing scrapes in August every year, and then towards the end of the year we've got like I said these yearling does will come in, and then you've got all the way up in North Georgia where you hunt at, where the peak rut, the regular peak rut, doesn't start until late December. But
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember if I talked about it on the last podcast, but I did see a nice eight on camera harassing a doe, grunting, the whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, the one that was going across the road, the
That's
driveway.
right. That's right. Yeah, and it was evident that somebody was an estrus. I mean, he was hot for that doe because you could see the doe in the background, and it was a video, so it was pretty cool. You see him walk up, and then you see the doe kind of trot up the mountain, and then you see him follow immediately, going right after her. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That was early. That was for us. It was early. It was like normal time for the rest
Yeah,
of the
normal
country.
rut for the rest of the state.
Right. But I don't even see scrapes on the ground until mid-December, mid to late December. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's funny because you'll see scrapes on the ground, like you said, up at your lease in Louisville. You'll see scrapes on the ground August, September. You're like, oh, wow, okay, this is cool. And I don't even see scrapes on the ground until mid-December up there. I mean, it's
And we're
wild.
not even talking about like primary scrapes or anything like that, where it's just all the deer come visit it. We're not talking about those scrapes that happen all year. These are scrapes that they're putting on the ground that are, your pre-rut scrapes that are going down in August. Mid to late August. Some of them. So that's
You want to
just
talk about wild rut differences? Look at Central Florida, where I
man.
hunted the other day in a WMA north of Tampa, kind of getting towards Orlando. You can figure out on your own which that is. You're looking at a late rut typically. You'll see them. I think I might have been talking to you. You were out there with somebody. I think it was one of your boys, and you were squirrel hunting or something and saw them fighting.
In
And
March.
March, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And but then
that
but
was
then
nuts.
yeah, it's a 30-mile difference. Go to a different WMA closer to the coast, and I've got bucks on camera, video of them hitting the licking branch and scraping out the scrape in October. And 30 miles is the difference there. And they're separated by, big corridors of people and stuff like that. I get it. But at the same point, I'm like, it's wild to me how vastly different it can be in such a small area. And yeah, it if we need to get a biologist on to explain that.
Yeah, Florida's really all over the place for one state, man. Because like I said, or like you were talking about that. I forget how many years ago it was, but I had little Kelly out squirrel hunting, and a doe came running in, and two bucks came running in, and they literally 25 yards away from us did not care that we were there. Nothing. Turned around and started like Texas, deer fight, monster buck going at it, trying to kill each other, fight in
Yeah.
March.
And I wonder if that wasn't like a, kind of an abnormality where maybe that was a late estrus doe and they still have their horns and they're like, you know what? She's an estrus. We're going at it. But either
I would
way,
imagine it has to be, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would be the abnormality like there. That's the only one in the whole state. I would think that if there's one,
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
probably several more. Nobody's out there to see it.
Yeah, correct.
Nobody's out to witness that. I mean, the squirrel hunters, maybe there might be somebody that says, "Oh yeah, I saw that too," but I personally have never seen that anywhere else that I've ever hunted, and I haven't heard of anybody else seeing that. I have. I've heard a few people say that they saw some deer chasing in February and March, but I've never. That's the only hardcore fight I've ever seen too. where two bucks are going. I've seen them sparring. I've seen a couple of bucks where they'll fight for like 3 or 4 seconds and they're really trying to kill each other, but for 4 seconds. This thing went on for, it had to have been over a minute where they were just trying to kill each other. And little Kelly then, gosh, what was he? Had to have been like 7 or something like that, 6 or 7. He's like, "Dang, they're fighting. Look at their heads." Really cool to have him out there seeing that. Um, but then so
Step
you've got
one
that
on how to
vast
get a
thing
kid
with,
addicted to the outdoors.
yeah, stick him in front of a deer fight.
Right.
But you've got March. Say the last typical real rut activity is late January, early February in some parts of Florida,
Typically, yeah.
and then you drive 4.5 to 6 hours, depending on what part of the state you're in. 2 months after that, or 4 months after that, what is it? In June,
Yeah.
July,
Yeah.
and you've got new next season hard-horned deer already
Yep.
chasing does down in
Yep.
South Central Florida.
Yeah, their season starts at the end of July. It's crazy. I mean, in theory, you could hunt deer from July through February in some states. So, I mean, everybody's like, you see memes all the time like, tell your wife, if Target was only open for 60 days a year, how many days she would be in there. Yeah, yeah, I get it. There are lots of the areas of the country that have like 2-week gun seasons or something like that. And a lot of people only hunt guns. I get it. But,
If there was more game in Florida, it would definitely be a hunter's paradise, because you can go from deer season, start it in July, go all the way through to turkey season, hunt turkey season, take a month off,
yeah,
and go start hunting again.
right. Yeah, exactly. I
Hey,
mean,
you're in 100-degree weather with 100% humidity, but
oh, it's
you know,
miserable. I mean, you're getting destroyed by mosquitoes the whole time you're, sitting in a stand.
even in
And
February.
yeah, yeah. And you got the snakes you got to worry about, all the critters. I mean, down South Florida, you got panthers, bears, you got everything that you got to worry
Boa
about.
constrictors.
Boa constrictors. F that, dude. If I
It would
see
be
20,
really cool to go on one of those python hunts that they do. You know me, I'm freaking killing snakes with a 3-4 inch stick, whatever I can find. I
right.
would love to go on one of those python hunts. That would be
I
really
could just
cool.
picture you whacking it with the stick and it just getting mad and being like,
Yep, it's around my body. Someone come pull my arm out.
I would like to do that. Honestly, there's a lot of outs, like ways that you could do it. It would be fun. I have no interest in walking up on a massive Burmese python while I'm
Then we'd
hunting.
be talking about the snake rut.
Yeah,
What's the python rut activity in your area?
they're talking about how the snakes are moving northward too. So I'm
Yeah.
like, because they just saw one in, God, it was like Manatee County or something. I was like, that's getting awfully damn close.
Jeez.
I don't
That's
like
what,
it.
3 counties south of you, 2 counties
Yeah,
south of you?
it's right in there, man. I'm like, I do not like that one bit. Keep that shit down there.
Imagine those getting into Richland.
Nah, I'm good. I mean, maybe it'll help with the pig population, but
Yeah, but is it doing anything to the pig population down south? I mean, they're still covered up down there. You
yeah,
can't keep up with pigs.
you really can't. I mean, they're everywhere. Ate
They
up.
got
And I got,
helicopters,
honestly,
thermal
yeah,
scopes, those big giant traps that'll catch 100 of them at a time, and you still go to any given place, and they're
there's hogs.
completely tearing the place up. Yeah,
Yeah, I get that they are, quote unquote, a nuisance. They do a lot of damage. They fucking wreck turkey nests. They destroy crops. I get it. They're bad. God dang it. I love hunting them. They're so much
yeah,
fun.
it's fun.
So much fun. Being able to I'll tell you the exact moment that I was like, archery hunting is something I need to get into. I was in Richland and BMA, and I was coming out of the stand, didn't see anything. And on the way out, I happened to see a pack of hogs, and I was like, ah, yeah, we're putting a stock on these things. I was able to sneak to within, it had to have been like freaking 10 yards, maybe closer, to a very large sow pig. And
Is
they
this the
had
one
no
I
clue.
remember?
Yeah. Yeah. You helped me drag them out. It was miserable. But yeah, I mean, I was like, that was freaking awesome. I mean, I just snuck to within, I could jump on its back if I wanted to. And it had no clue. I mean, every single time it'd put its head in the mud, start rooting around. creep a little closer, creep a little
I want
closer.
to know why you shot the biggest one
That was a mistake.
and why you shot it 2 miles into the woods with no trails around.
Yeah, yeah, that was well, you know, young hunting career. Wasn't really thinking, just thinking about. That was a big damn pig too, because I've got pictures of it, and it was I
Really
looked
big.
small behind it. Dragging that thing through creeks and everything was pretty rough. But yeah, it was an enlightening moment for me because I was just like, I got to get into
This
bow
is
hunting.
awesome.
This is awesome. I still do not understand how that pig ran as far as it did because
It
it
was dumping the
no
whole time.
had no lungs. It was a red. We did the track job was easy. I called you immediately. I'm like, hey, I need your help, and I didn't even track it initially. I was like, I'm just gonna wait, let it die. When you got there, it was a freaking red carpet. I mean, the entire way.
Well, it was over a 200-pound hog, and I guess it had a lot of blood to let go of.
Yeah, no lungs though.
Yeah.
How are you still going? So, I, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you compare that. I'll say a good hit on a deer or pig with a bow is gonna produce a much better blood trail if you have to do a track job than most guns that I've ever
Yep.
shot.
That's right.
And it's just the exit wound is just so much bigger. I mean, it's incredible if it goes through, and even the entry wound, I guess. Really, I mean, as long as you're putting a good hit on it.
Yeah,
But
that the buck I killed, I think it's this one right
okay.
there. I killed it 2 or 3 years ago in bow season, and the entry hole, just the entry hole, was like 2 inches wide and just laid wide open, and then the exit hole similar but more pushed out, and it was a paintbrush too. But you shoot a deer with a rifle, and a lot of times you're like, where'd I hit it? Trying to
Mm-hmm.
pull back hair to find it, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't get that blood loss on both sides.
Yeah, if they don't drop immediately, then it's like, all right.
It's cool too if you don't hit bone. They'll run out there 20 or 30 yards and turn around and look at you like,
Mm-hmm.
what just happened? And then they kind of just pass out there. But I mean, if you hit shoulder or something like that, and the arrow stays in them, then they know something's up. Otherwise, if it zips through them, they're just thinking they got you know something smacked them. They don't know what.
Yeah, well, it's funny because that's exactly how that buck that I shot this year on the Florida Public, he reacted like he got bit by a horsefly. I think he
Because you were so
jumped.
close to them.
Yeah, I think he jumped just because he heard the bang of the gun go off, and then he just kind of like jumped up like, man, the horsefly got me, and it's crazy to me. If you shot me with a 300 Win Mag, I'd be immediately.
I think you were so close that thing didn't really mushroom or anything. It just
The exit wound looked like it had mushroomed pretty well.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think I talked about it last time because of the angle I was at, how close I was. The exit wound was higher than the entry wound. There was no
No
chance
blood
for the
really.
blood to come out. It was just pooling in his body. So I mean, it was a learning experience for me. I was like, well, I mean, if you're gonna shoot him at that range, take their shoulder out or something.
Yeah. High shoulder drop him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. What I saw you grab before we started recording. You grabbed some antlers off the or maybe a dead or a head or something.
Yeah.
You got
This
what you
is
got?
my this is my deer from this year. He was a well, I took him for what I thought was a big 6. He's just over 15 inches wide, but he wound up being a 7. I
Is that
got
like
to
a
watch
split
it.
brow? Is that what that is considered?
That's
Or
it's
an
actually a
extra brow?
second brow, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know why it grew like that, but if you can
that's
see it
pretty
in the
neat.
camera, it's got one kind of laid back,
Mm-hmm.
and then his regular brow tine too.
Pretty
But
neat.
the G2s on this thing are 10 and a half and almost
Freaking
11. This one's almost yeah, this one's almost 11.
freaking daggers.
Yeah, he was. It was really cool. I got to watch him the first day that he was there. I watched him first. I saw a doe come out, and it was just ruts kicking in, and so if a doe comes out, I'm not doing anything to her. I'm gonna let her do her thing, see if it plays out. And she comes in, her fawn's with her, and she keeps looking off up towards this pine thicket. Probably 6, 7-year-old pines, not real big, still got some green growing underneath them. and she's looking up towards those, and then I see legs walking,
Mm-hmm.
just legs moving around, catching them here and there, and I'm thinking, okay, well that's the buck for sure. And he comes in and he's looking down at the does, or at the doe and the yearling, and they're not doing anything. She's still feeding and looking back up at him, and he's just eyes locked on her. And he looks like a pointer dog because he'll walk up like 3 steps real slow with his
He's in a
feet,
set.
and then he'll just stand there. If she moves at all, he'll walk over 2 steps like he's trying to, stay on a bird almost. And
Dad, there's quail in here. I know it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was cool to watch him. He was a so our at our lease there's a 16-inch wide. Hey, there she is. There's a 16-inch outside spread rule, and they need to be 6 pointer better. So he was big enough, but he was only like a 2.5-year-old 7 point. So I'm watching them, get to watch him, and then he starts probably 30 minutes. I mean, this went on for hours. With all these deer that I saw on this particular hunt, he starts probably 30 minutes after they come in running. He'll take 3 steps running and stop. Like you see them stop horses when they run. I forget what it's called, but they slide. And he'd run and slide and bah, like real loud, like barking at her almost to get
Really?
her to move, I guess, to spin around. And she'd bed down, 10, 15 yards from me. And as soon as she'd bed down, he'd run at her and bah, real loud. And that was cool. I got some of it on video. I don't know if maybe I'll send it to you. You can add some of it to it,
Yeah, do it.
but he was doing that. And then a spike came out from a long ways away. I had a live grunt call in front of me, and and the doe was making, she was doing some bleats too, but not like the canned bleats you hear all the time. Just those real short mat. You could just hear them all communicating with each other because they're, I mean,
That's the coolest
right
thing
on,
when you're right next to them, you can hear how much they actually do communicate. It's
yeah,
what I've noticed is it's a lot more nuanced than what you get, because everybody like sees like the rut, like snort wheeze and all that crap, and it's the communication. They have that all year, but it's so much softer. It's so
yeah.
much more nuanced. It's like,
A lot of people don't get the opportunity to see that either because they may have a couple of weekends a year that they hunt, or just they want to shoot the first good buck they see because they've only got a limited time to hunt. So when that buck comes out or the doe comes out, and the hunt's over. So, and that's nothing against them. They just, they're doing the best they can with the time they have. Whereas, if I'm hunting early season, I've got the whole year I mean, I haven't been out as much this year as I want to, but I get more time. So I can take advantage of that and get to sit and watch this happen. So, I'm watching them, seeing them communicate with each other. They're bringing in other bucks. Spike comes in. Another nice 7 point comes in, but he's still probably 2.5 or 3.5 years old, but plenty wide enough. The first one's probably 17.5 inches outside spread, so plenty big enough. And in total, there were 6 bucks, and this one comes in
Jesus
last.
Christ.
Yeah, this one comes in last. She was definitely hot,
Clearly.
definitely an estrus. And this one comes in last. And the second he comes in, he's running like a bulldog, and his back's all torn up. Where he's got no fur between his shoulders, where something, I guess, bigger has been tearing him up, or just from fighting.
You think he might have got shot?
No, 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 no.
Nothing like that.
It was all fur, and he was scarred up all over his
Oh,
neck, and
yeah, he'd been fighting hard.
yeah, he'd been fighting. But he comes in, and I mean, what we worry about, we have a lot of 6 points at the club, and we have old 6 points. Like I said, this one I would guess at 4 years old. He was, I think, 170-ish pounds,
Jeez.
and probably rutted out a little bit. He probably
Mm-hmm.
would have been bigger, first part of the rut or right before rut. But these daggers, man, these 6 pointers, we worry about them killing other deer because they don't want to mess with them because of those things, and they'll come up and stab him, and that's what he was doing. I mean, he was coming up and ramming them in the side, and those things are, I mean, it's literally like jabbing a sword in their side. And if
Mm-hmm.
the bucks would turn away, he was hooking them. He knew right where those daggers were going to land, and he was trying to hook them in the nuts as they're running away. But I watched this that whole first day that I saw them, and contemplating shooting this deer or not. So quick quick kind of backstory on this year. We had hurricane, which one was it? Helene that came through and then went up to North Carolina, the one that tore them up. So North Carolina sustained probably the worst damage I've ever seen before. With the
Well, I mean, I say funny colloquially. It's not funny at all. A lot of the people from Florida were like, "Let's get the hell out of here. We're going up to North Carolina.
yeah,
We'll have a
yeah,
nice little mountain vacation."
yeah,
And that was disastrous.
yeah. But it was really bad up there. But Louisville and that whole part of South Georgia, it wasn't publicized, I guess, as much. But they really took a hit. Louisville didn't have power, I think, for almost a month.
God.
And when we went there, I went the day after the hurricane hit, I think, to go and see, how camp was because we got our campers are down there
You were saying you couldn't even
and
get in, right?
couldn't get to camp. We didn't get to camp until I think the following weekend. There were like
Jeez.
7 or 8 of us out of the lease that went, and there were trees down everywhere. I actually tried to take an officer to, what do you call it, a wellness check. We couldn't. So the road you turn off of the main highway right before you get to the dirt road, where
Mm-hmm.
you got the 3 gates, the first 3
Mm-hmm.
gates.
Mm-hmm.
So when you turn off that main highway, that's where they were at. They were sitting there. We couldn't get any further towards the lease than that. And he said, "Yeah, we can't get any further. We're trying to go to a wellness check right now on that dirt road, and I can't even make it." I said, "Well, I can get around these trees. You want to go try?" And so we tried. Didn't I mean we maybe got a quarter mile further and there were giant oak trees laid across, and I'm like, "Look, we're not doing this." So they went back and went to a different check. People were calling in for their families to say, "Hey, are they okay?" Because they had no power, there was no cell phone service down there whatsoever. But anyways, I had a lot of areas that I've hunted for, I don't know, 20 years, and we lost probably 70 to 80% of our hardwoods on the property, be it in the bottoms, the little SMZs that you'll have between the clear cuts, the pine, because it's all pine plantation. So most of the SMZ completely gone. No hardwoods, no, these 40, 50-year-old white oak trees just all laid down. So that's why I was in this spot. I found a new spot altogether that I don't hunt or hadn't hunted because I had to find just a place to go. And this knob, there's kind of a finger of trees for whatever reason was protected, I guess, from the wind, just the way the wind was blowing or whatever. And it still had some acorns dropping, still had white oaks. The red oaks were just starting to drop, and there were several scrapes on this knob, and that's why I came to this area. But I forget where I was at in my hunt story. I just wanted to kind of give a layout of this
You were
hunt,
saying you
this
saw him.
spot, and why I was there.
He was hooking the other bucks with the nuts and just
Yeah, yeah,
fighting
yeah.
and
So he
super
was
aggressive.
yeah, he was real aggressive with them, trying to hook them, and he kept running up, into the stuff that was almost impenetrable by people because of all the trees laid down. He kept going and hopping into there, pushing the other deer around, and they're hopping through it like,
Like
they're
it's
just
nothing.
going for a jog,
Yeah.
and we can't hardly walk through it.
Right.
But comes back, and so I'm asking everybody about it when I come back. I'm like, "Hey man, should I shoot this deer?" Because I've got 45 minutes of video of him in my phone. And some people are like, "Oh, he's only a year and a half old deer," and I'm thinking,
No.
where did you learn this? You're aging. But then several other guys are like, "Oh yeah, he's never
I
gonna be anything."
I already know what you were doing anyway. You weren't asking if you should shoot him. You were projecting
I
like,
was
I'm
encouraging.
going to shoot this deer. Are you guys going to be okay with it or what?
No, now I would have not shot him. I mean, otherwise I mean he's legal to shoot,
Yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
as far as our club goes, I would have shot him. But I wanted to get some. There's a few guys at our club that I really respect their opinion. There's a few guys that I don't respect their opinion at all because they talk out of
That's
their
like any
backside,
club.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they talk out of their backside. They don't really know, but they're really, really sure of themselves when they talk about
Sure.
it. But no, there's a few guys that I asked, and I'm like, "What do you think of this?" And one's like, "I would have shot him right now." One said, "You should have shot him," and one said, "If he comes out again, you should shoot him." So a couple mornings later, I think I went and I actually changed trees because I had the doe look up at me a couple of times, but she didn't. I think she just saw something she wasn't sure of because they were so close. And 2 bucks came out this time. He was one of them. And it was probably 15 minutes after daylight. And they had already told me, "Yeah, man, if he comes out again, get him." And so decision was easy. He comes out, he's looking at the doe, he's doing the barking thing again. As soon as he gave me a good broadside shot, I think it was 20 yards. I shot him with a 30-06 and he ran off, and the rest is history. Here he is. Probably the best
Piled
Euro
up.
mount I've done though. Thing
It
turned
looks
out
really good. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Fantastic job. How'd you do it?
So I defleshed it as best as I could, and then I simmer it in a pot with probably 2 cups, I think, of Dawn dish soap, and it pretty much falls off. And then I have my girlfriend actually let me use her pressure washer. It's this electric pressure washer. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
Ryobi,
Mm-hmm.
and pressure washed everything off of it after. And it sits in that simmering hot water, and you have to keep adding water to it because
Yep.
it
Because it
steams
boils over.
off. But just simmering, if you boil it, it I guess it does something to the ligaments and all that holds the little bones. There's so many little bones, and they'll fall off if you boil it too hard, too fast. So just simmers for 4 hours. Then you take it out, spray it out, pull as much flesh as you can out. I get a long pair of needle nose and reach up and get the cartilage out of the nose because that's the
Mm-hmm.
part that's the hardest. And if you don't get it out, it will start stinking after a while. But got everything out. And then I either use that salon gel, that peroxide salon gel stuff. It's like hair bleach, or
Mm-hmm.
this. I'll probably just do this for now on. I took it out, got all the stuff off it with the pressure washer, scrubbed it really good one time with like an SOS pad and some more Dawn dish soap to get any oils that were on it at all. Rinse it off with hot water, and you can feel if there's oil on it or not. And then I let it dry, on a counter on the towel for a little bit. Once it's dried, I took and just squirted peroxide all over it because
Mm-hmm.
peroxide's like $1 for a whole bottle. Squirted peroxide all over it, made sure to not get it on the horns, and then I hung it on a hook in the sun on the back porch for probably 3 hours, and there it is.
Nice. Looks
So
good. I'm
yeah,
trying.
that's
I'm trying a new method on this last because I was very happy with it. Public land buck in Florida. It's nothing as far as size is concerned. It's nothing to shake a leg at. But I was happy with it. I got meat from it. What I did was I did what you did. I simmered it, little dish soap, little water, simmered it for a while, and then there was still meat on it left over. My pressure washer, I think I have probably the same pressure washer. It's a Ryobi, electric one. I don't know. It's somebody's taken it. Somebody's borrowed it, so it's not here. I took the skull, and with all that meat, I put it in the chicken coop, and the chickens hammered it. They
they'll
loved
devour it,
it.
man.
Oh man, they have been. It looks picked clean right now, so I got to get out there and take it out of there, and I'll probably
Wash it
do
and put
some.
you some bleach
That's
on it or
that's
something. Not
exactly right.
bleach. You're gonna bleach it.
Yep,
If
yep,
you
yep.
use bleach, it does something to the bone. I
Yeah, it
forget
messes it up.
what it is, but messes
You
up the
can
bone and it's weaker.
you can bleach it. You just have to be able to rinse it off very quickly. You can't let
Yeah,
it sit. The hydrogen peroxide is a good idea, and then the sun reacting with
yeah,
it probably just made it
it
pop
does
white.
great. I've never had one turn that white, and then actually, Jessica's dad killed a nice buck this year, and I did it for him, and um, and it was the same. I mean, the two best ones I've done, they're all like, all of them are like, oh, how much do you charge to do that? You should do this on the side. I'm like, if somebody asked me to do it, I would, but I'm
Buddy,
not.
I've been looking into taxidermy lately. I'm like,
Isn't it
man,
freaking hard?
God, it looks it because it's art and
I
science,
am
right?
not an artist.
I could in my youth have been called an artist at some point. I'm not saying I was good because I was not.
I
But
feel
I do
like you've
have
been in my house when I talked to Jessica about this because the same path you're going down is what I told her.
dude, I want to get into it so bad. It would be so cool as like a little side hobby. And then if you ever did get good, you could charge for it. And man, they charge out the ass for that taxidermy.
There's this girl that I follow on
Rightfully
TikTok
so, by
because
the
when I
way.
started
Like
doing
it's worth the money.
yeah, when I started looking at it, honestly, when she told me I should, they were starting to tell me to do these Euro mounts for people. And I was like, well, I wonder what it would be like to get into taxidermy. And then you start watching YouTube videos, and then your TikTok, because your phone tells everything, your TikTok start popping up taxidermy. So this girl popped up that does. everything. She does birds, she does bears, all kind of stuff, and it's awesome work. So I followed it, and she does like not step by step, but she'll take little excerpts of video that she takes and puts on TikTok. And when she's going around the nose of this buck, or this I guess the head, the foam,
Mm-hmm.
and she's literally taken the file and
Mm-hmm.
sanding down for these particular veins, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't freaking do that. I'm not an artist.
Have you seen
And
how
then
they
they're
build?
and
They
then they
take
and then they
clay.
paint the
Yep.
yeah, and they
Yeah. They
paint
take the
the
clay and
around the
build out the
eyes and all that. They're
eyes. Yep. Yep.
airbrushing,
Yep.
airbrushing fur to make it look like what it did in the picture. And I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be the guy that these people are posting on, taxidermy sites or on Facebook pages saying, "Got my buck
Bad
back. It was a cheap one," and the buck's like,
taxidermy or something like that.
it is
you,
definitely an art, and I see how expensive mounts are now. And before watching all this stuff, I'm like, God, that's freaking ridiculous. If somebody's charging you 800, I could never pay for it because I just can't justify it. That's why pretty much all my stuff up there is all skull
I like the
mounts.
Euro mount look though. I think it looks
Yeah,
cool.
I like the skull mounts, the Euro mounts. But if you're gonna get your deer head mounted, a shoulder mount, do not complain about $800 or $900 because the work that goes into it, just
It's,
watching these little bits of videos, is
it's
crazy,
meticulous.
and it is an art
Mm-hmm.
to do it. So I'm I may at some point do my own, or try, and then probably rip the skull cap out and hang it on the wall because it looks like crap. But I would never get into it for my own financial gain because I I wouldn't feel good about giving anybody the stuff that I'm probably going to
I
produce.
I wouldn't charge anybody until I was 100% sure that I could do it right. And here's the thing: a lot of those capes that they're getting are pristine. That they show. What do you do when you get a cape that is not pristine? Oh man, I
They
messed up an
wash them.
eyelid. Well,
They're
no, I'm
literally
saying I
washing them,
know,
blow
I know,
drying them, brushing them.
but I'm saying like when you're skinning it out. Oh man, I nicked the eyelid or something
Oh, and
like
it's got
that.
holes in it and stuff like
Right,
that.
right. And now all of a sudden you're having to, fix a field mess up. And it's like, oh God, that just stresses me out just thinking about it. So part of me wants to do it for myself. Part of me's like, yeah, you ain't got time for that, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But I don't know how we got off on just because I brought the mount out again, showing it. But that was the whole synopsis of my hunt, how it went. It was one of the most, between the 2 days, probably the most exciting hunt I've been on as far as rut activity and what I saw. But other than that, I have not seen a whole lot of rut activity this year. It's been really terrible.
well, the weather
Besides that
probably
hunt,
messed it up.
it's been hot. But even so, my property here, I always tell you every year, I'm like, yeah, the big bucks start showing up around Halloween. And I don't have any big deer that live on me. I've got a lot of does. And this year I've had one, and he's a giant, but I've got two pictures of him. It's a big 11 point. I haven't seen him in the woods, and I hunted hard out there because it's so close. I haven't been able to really go elsewhere much. But I haven't seen a lot of rut activity here. Haven't seen a lot of rut activity in Louisville. Haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of it at Jessica's place, which is kind of between us. And again, just now starting to see a little bit of harassment of the smaller does, maybe because of the cold weather. But even at nighttime, I haven't seen, nighttime camera pictures of them pushing around stuff. I don't know what it is. It's just a
I
year, one of
I
those years.
I'm planning on being at the farm end of this month. So I'm excited because like we talked about, it should be peaking right around then. Hopefully we'll see some activity. There's going to be another family up there, so the noise level is going to be substantially higher. So as long as I can get away from the house and get onto the property and, maybe set up some corn feeders or something, I don't know. But I'm not going to be able to hunt kind of where they like to bed and where they like to come out because of the proximity to the house and just the subsequent noise that I know is going to be there. But I'd like to get the kids into a blind at some point, and if they can see some of that red activity, that'd be just tops, man.
Really
I'm
cool.
excited for
Yep.
the yeah, I'm excited for that. It'll be fun. But Yep. We've been rambling on for an hour, so you want to wrap this up and save everything else?
Yeah, sure. I guess if you haven't already, I saw last night. I think we've got like 7 subscribers on YouTube, so
Nice.
that's pretty good. We're moving
I'll take
along.
that. The last episode is on YouTube. It took a day and a half to get it uploaded, but it's uploaded and edited.
If you
If you
want to
haven't
see our
already,
ugly mugs, like and subscribe.
put a face to the name.
What is it on YouTube? Is it just Stay Elevated Outdoors?
Yep, Stay Elevated Outdoors on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And I think on TikTok, excuse me, I think it's just Stay Elevated Out. I don't think they put the whole outdoors. I think it's too long.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead and like, subscribe, and give us a shot at keep talking to you guys because we enjoy it. Hopefully, you guys enjoy it.
We
It's
make nothing and probably make nothing. We just like hearing ourselves talk, I guess. And if
I
it
can
helps somebody,
I can for damn sure admit to that. We make nothing off of this. It is literally scot free. In fact, I get heat for doing it because I have a 4-week old baby, and so the text messages have been rolling in. That's the only reason I have to stop you at an hour is because it's like, hey, where you at?
I don't get heat anymore, only because I'm not married. But I do get to get why Kate is bugging you because a
Oh, it's
newborn's tough.
justified. I get it. It's 100% justified. But yeah, it just makes it an extra added level of challenge.
Well, like and subscribe on you know, all of our socials, like you said, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Stay Elevated Outdoors.
Send me that video of that buck rutting and be
Yeah, I'll send you
looking.
a few of them.
Yeah,
And
be
then if you
looking for that to
guys,
come out on the socials.
yeah, if you guys are on those and you want us to talk about anything in particular, shoot us a message. We're happy to talk about any stuff. I can ramble on for literally a whole hour about anything.
Pretty much. Pretty much. All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you.
Yeah,
We'll
you
pick
too,
this
bud.
up. All right, dude. Thanks
See
for
you.
listening.
You got it, man.